A 16-year-old banished prince thinks he is going to be going home, but then he learns his younger sister, a firebending prodigy whose skill at martial arts is matched only by her callous cruelty, has betrayed them. He fights her, and even though he doesn't win, he manages to escape into the forest, where he and his uncle cut their hair and take up new lives. They are fugitives from the Fire Nation. They hope desperately that they will not be recognized. The teenager travels through a country the size of China, spending some time alone and more with his uncle. Ostensibly, he's running from his sister and trying to capture the Avatar, but in reality he's spending as much time searching through the crevices of his soul. He wonders what he should do. He has experiences that open him up to the possibility of change, and he also has experiences that make him more depressed and bitter. Eventually, he and his uncle reach the capital of this vast land they've been traveling through. The teenager still wants to search for the Avatar, but his uncle opens a tea shop and tries to convince him to abandon his search. The tea shop does well, and the uncle becomes very well liked by his customers. This is in large part because of the tea, but it's also because of his charm and affability. He's just a good person, and everyone knows that. The teenager takes steps down toward the path to join his uncle, but before he can fully commit to that path, he's confronted by his sister, who offers him everything he has ever wanted. She says he can have it all if only he joins her. What does he do? This is a special edition of Avatar Explained, focusing on the moment when Zuko establishes himself as one of the greatest characters in television history. One could argue that he established himself as a great character as early as episode 112, The Storm, in which the full extent of his tragic backstory is revealed. One could argue for his greatness being established in episode 207, Zuko Alone, which is an achingly poignant character piece about him. Even after everything he does wrong, he tries to do the right thing in Zuko Alone. He owns up to his history and says he's proud of who he is, and for that he's chased out of the town. But I don't think I truly understood how great of a character Zuko is until I watched the Season 2 finale of Avatar, the Crossroads of Destiny. It's a finale so great, it retroactively reshapes the entire season before it. Zuko's arc in Season 2 sets him up to redeem himself down there in Old Ba Sing Se. Everything points to it. And yet, when he doesn't, it doesn't feel like an empty shock. It doesn't feel like a cheap surprise. Instead, it deepens Zuko's tragedy to levels I never imagined the show would reach. If Zuko had redeemed himself at the end of Season 2, traveling with Team Avatar for the whole of Season 3, he still would have been a very good character. One could even argue that he would have been a great character, but he would not have been nearly as compelling. Having Zuko choose against Team Avatar in the Crossroads of Destiny pointedly emphasizes that the story we thought we were being told is not the story we are actually being told. Zuko's betrayal hurts in the moment, but in the context of the entire series, it makes his character arc much more thoughtful and compelling. If Zuko had responded to everything that had happened to him in Season 2 by rejecting Azula and his father's false promise of honor, it would have felt earned, but it would not have felt as earned as it ended up feeling. It would have sent the message that Zuko's conditioning may have seriously damaged him, but it's nothing that can't be fixed by introspection and love and the desire to be better. Instead, he rejects not just redemption, but the entire sequence of circumstances and events that led him to be so close to redeeming himself. So much had to go right for Zuko to even consider joining Team Avatar. It was far from inevitable. Here's a short, incomplete list of what had to happen. Number 1. Aang chooses to save Zuko's life at the North Pole. This is an extraordinary act of mercy, akin to Frodo deciding to spare Gollum in The Lord of the Rings. Sokka argues against saving Zuko's life, but Aang does not abandon his convictions. Number 2. Azula's guard in episode 201, the Avatar State, has to make the mistake of referring to Zuko and Iroh as prisoners, tipping them off to the fact that she means to capture them. Number 3. Zuko has to meet up with Iroh in episode 208, The Chase, after having gained a newfound appreciation for his uncle after everything that went wrong for him in Zuko alone. Number 4. Zuko has to arrive in Ba Sing Se at about the same time the Avatar does. Number 5. The Sandbenders have to capture Appa in episode 210, The Library, necessitating Aang's quest to find him, and allowing Zuko to find the bison in episode 217, Lake Laogai. Number 6. Zuko has to choose to let Appa go, which he only does after receiving an impassioned plea from his uncle Iroh. Number 7. Zuko has to make the decision that he's happy not chasing the Avatar, and that he's content working in his uncle's tea shop, the Jasmine Dragon. Number 8. Katara has to go to the Jasmine Dragon when she's looking for tea, leading her to seeing Iroh and Zuko and unwittingly revealing their presence in the city to Azula. Number 9. Katara and Zuko have to be thrown in prison together in Ba Sing Se. There, they connect, despite Katara's initial reluctance. She believes he's nothing but a heartless, evil-spirited person intent on extinguishing every flicker of hope in the world, but he convinces her that this is not true. He talks to her about his mother and everything he has endured, and she believes he has changed. I know I spent a while listing all of that out, but I did it to make a point. That point being that if there is a force of destiny in the Avatar world, it wants Zuko to choose good. It wants him to become a better person. All of the pieces are in place. He comes so close to changing, but he can't. As Iroh says, he's at the crossroads of his destiny. That line is where the title of the episode comes from. Destiny, along with several choices Zuko has made, have taken him to the precipice of change. But that's not a guarantee that he will fundamentally change. He has to make that choice himself. Even if Iroh is right, and there are things in the Avatar world that are predetermined, that doesn't mean there is no room for the actions of groups, or even individuals, to change that path. Azula may have been such a daring tactical mastermind that everything goes right for her in this episode, but if Zuko chooses against her, then all her plans are instantly foiled. She admits as much to him. When Azula says that she's a people person in episode 315, The Boiling Rock Part 2, it's a laugh line, but there's an element of truth in it. She's very knowledgeable, for the most part, about other people's psyches. It's an essential part of her character. When she loses that, as she does when Mai and Ty Lee turn against her and join Zuko, she's nothing. She's just a group of tenuously connected venomous impulses that barely fit together into a cohesive person. She becomes all paranoia and doubt, but that is a long way away. In the crossroads of destiny, she is on top of the world. She knows that the best way to convince Zuko is to give him space. She knows he's right on the cusp of fundamentally changing as a person, and leaving both her and their father behind forever. So she allows time for doubts to creep in, and for him to think about how he has wanted his father's approval, which he considers to be the same thing as his honor, for so very long. Azula does something she rarely does. She trusts. She trusts him. She reasons that given the time to weigh his options as she presents them, he'll abandon his hope to change for the better and instead rejoin her. This is, unfortunately, exactly what he does. He's close to changing. He's very close. Katara's not a naive fool to think he's capable of becoming a better person. Everything he says to her when they're in prison together is the absolute earnest truth. And he has already proved himself capable of changing by freeing Appa in episode 217, Lake Laogai. In fact, onto that list of 9 things, one must only add one more thing to permanently change Zuko's fate. If Aang and Iroh don't break into the room before Katara heals Zuko with the spirit water, he likely is healed, and he likely does not turn against Katara after that. Possibly, the suggestive romantic spark of their interaction becomes more explicit. Either way, Zuko stays with Team Avatar. He doesn't go against them and join Azula. But for all this talk of destiny and fate and everything that had to happen and everything that could have happened, none of that matters nearly as much as Zuko himself. He betrayed the trust of Katara and his uncle. He failed to do what he needed to do. His entire arc in the third season unfolds in the context of his failure in the crossroads of destiny. Given a golden opportunity to redeem himself for the failures of his past, he instead chooses to surrender to temptation. It's important to consider why exactly this makes Zuko a better character. He has failed a lot in his life. What makes this failure different? Is it the scale of the failure? Well, yes and no. The scale is definitely a part of it. This moral failure dooms not just him, but the entire Earth Kingdom. It nearly gets Aang killed. Katara brings all of this up in episode 312, the Western Air Temple, when she's arguing against allowing Zuko to join their group. Katara hasn't stopped believing that what Zuko said when they were in prison together was the truth. She still believes he was confused and hurt. What has changed is that the consequences of Zuko's decision to turn against them were so severe that she cannot bring herself to trust him again. The possibility of him betraying her again is grisly enough for her to not even consider allowing him to join. Though one could easily disagree with Katara's position, and Katara herself trusts him again after he helps her confront the darkness inside herself in the Southern Raiders, it's hard to say that Katara's position is not understandable. She trusted him, she was let down, and the world lost. So yes, scale is certainly a major element of why this failure matters more than the others in terms of making his character more tragic and fascinating. But I think a bigger element is how Zuko's decision in this episode changes the very emotional dynamic of what he needs to do to completely transform. In Season 2, he has no power. He is at his lowest. Changing for the better is relatively easy. He needs to sacrifice nothing but his old dreams and aspirations. In Season 3, however, he has all of the power. He has his father's approval, and his position as the Crown Prince back. Ozai has not yet found out that the Avatar is still alive. Everything has gone right for him. He lives a comfortable life. He's carried around everywhere he goes. If he wants a servant to bring his girlfriend a fruit tart, the servant will. Changing for the better is relatively difficult. He has to sacrifice everything. Yet it is in Season 3, not in Season 2, when he finally changes. After getting everything he wants, he decides he was wrong to want it. He says he doesn't want it anymore. The first few times we see Zuko in Season 3, he feels weird. He doesn't know what to do about the contrast between what he thinks he's supposed to feel and what he actually feels. In episode 305, The Beach, one of the most important episodes in Season 3, he finally admits that he is not happy, and it has nothing to do with May, or the stupid jokes at the party, or even Azula. It has everything to do with himself and his doubt about the decision he made. From the first time we see Zuko, he's anxious. In the first season, he's desperate about capturing the Avatar. In the second season, he's just plain desperate. However, by the third season, he is not desperate anymore. He lives in luxury and extravagance. He's with his girlfriend, and he can do anything he wants. And yet he's not happy. For someone as damaged as Zuko, it would have under any circumstances taken an extraordinary force of will and determination for him to turn against his father and join the Avatar. I want to make that absolutely clear. But for him to make that decision after he has gotten everything he has ever wanted, well, that takes a far greater force of will. It takes far more inner strength. That Zuko does not turn against the darkness in Season 2, when destiny seemed to be pushing him in the direction of change. But in Season 3, when destiny is, if anything, pushing him against change, is remarkable. It shows not only the degree to which he has realized he was wrong, but the degree to which he has realized his uncle is right. The reason Zuko is one of the greatest characters in modern fiction is because of the depth of his redemption arc. Redemption arcs are nothing new. I'm not going to tell you that Avatar: The Last Airbender invented them or even revolutionized them. Zuko's arc is fantastic not because it's cutting edge conceptually, but because the execution is so earnest and heartfelt. Season 1 gives us a deep analysis of why Zuko wants what he wants and why he believes what he believes. Season 2 delves into the struggle between good and evil inside him. Season 3 gives us his final triumph over that darkness. All 3 parts are essential. Cutting one out is missing the point. Having Zuko be redeemed at the end of Season 2 would have been the show sending the message that he can be redeemed if everything leads him in that direction. That's satisfying, but it's not quite as satisfying as the eventual message that he's grown and matured enough that he can defeat the darkness inside himself, even if every external force is trying to persuade him to embrace that darkness and reject redemption. The old adage that the journey is more important than the destination has never been more true than it is here. Where a character ends up is important, but how they got there is infinitely more so. The process matters. If there's something Zuko's redemption arc absolutely is not, it's easy. Having him turn good at the end of Season 2 would not have necessarily been bad writing, but it would have been a little too easy. It would have been a little too simplistic for my liking. By having him reject redemption in the episode The Crossroads of Destiny, the show is indicating that if he is indeed going to be redeemed, it is going to be a much longer and much harder and much more difficult path. This decision takes Zuko from merely being cool and interesting and full of potential to being a truly compelling character. Nothing comes easy to him, and that makes everything much more cathartic and much more satisfying when it finally does come. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can, and you can afford it. Even $1 a month really helps. Watch more Avatar, it's a fantastic show. And tune in for the next Avatar analysis. It's going to be coming soon. I promise you that. Thank you again. Adios, comrades.